We know you have a lot of ways you could be spending your time, and it means so much to us that you're here for Castle Hills Christian Church, online church. We encourage everyone to minimize distractions, to grab a Bible, and to prepare your heart and mind to worship, learn, and fellowship together online. Later in the service, we'll be taking communion together, so we encourage you to grab some bread and some juice to prepare for that later on in the service. We're asking everyone to fill out a connection card at chccsa.info. There you'll find all kinds of other information about our church. We'd love to connect with you at chccsa.info. Let's worship together.
I was buried beneath my shame. Who could carry that kind of weight? It was my turn till I met you. I was breathing but not alive. All my failures I tried to hide. It was my turn till I met you. When you called my name and I ran out of that grave, out of the darkness into your glorious day. You called my name and I ran out of that grave, out of the darkness into your glorious day. Mercy has saved my soul. Now your freedom is all that I know. The old name knew Jesus when I met you. Oh, what a day, 'cause when you called my name and I ran out of that grave, out of the darkness into your glorious day. You called my name and I ran out of that grave, out of the darkness into your glorious day. I needed a rescue, my sin was heavy. The chains break at the weight of your glory. I needed shelter, I was an orphan. Now you call me a citizen of heaven. When I was broken, you were my healing. Now your love is the air that I'm breathing. I have a future, my eyes are open, 'cause when you called my name, I ran out of that grave, out of the darkness into your glorious day. You called my name and I ran out of that grave, out of the darkness into your glorious day. Hey!
Good morning. My name is Randall. I'm one of the elders here, and I will be bringing today's message to you. Today we'll be looking at Ruth, and we're going to spend most of our time in chapters 3 and 4, but I think we need to look at chapters 1 and 2 just to kind of see how we got to where we get to in chapters 3 and 4. As you see, Ruth is a series of coincidences, and there is a lot of symbolism in the book of Ruth. In chapters 1, we see that Naomi and Elimelech, they leave Judah. They move to Moab. They leave due to a severe famine in the land. Now they have two sons. One is Mahlon, the other is Chilion. Once they get to Moab, Mahlon and Chilion marry Moabite women, Ruth and Orpah. In chapter 1, we see that all the men die. Elimelech passes away, Mahlon and Chilion pass away, leaving Naomi, Ruth, and Orpah. Naomi decides she needs to go back to the land of Judah as the famine is over, and she can go and be able to at least grab some food, have some family support. Orpah and Ruth have a decision to make whether they're going to stick with their mother-in-law or stay in Moab. Orpah says, I'm done, I'm out, I'm going to stay. Ruth decides she's going to go with Naomi back to Judah. Naomi tries to convince her to stay in Moab with her people. Ruth doesn't want to do this. She tells her, I will follow you till the day I die. Your people will become my people. Your God will become my God. And if I do not do this, may God deal with me as he will. In chapter 2, we see that Naomi has Ruth go glean in a field. Now, gleaning is nothing more than going and picking up scraps from behind the harvesters, the pieces that fall down, the pieces that got missed as they go through. In chapter 2, we find out that this field that she's in coincidentally belongs to Boaz, who we find out is in the line of Elimelech, and Boaz is a potential kinsman redeemer for Ruth and Naomi. Boaz returns, and he's looking over his fields, and he greets the workers in the field, and he spots somebody new and asks, who is that? And the workers tell him that it is Ruth, who returned from Moab. She's in the line of Elimelech. So Boaz knows at this point that she's at least in his bloodline, and he's familiar with what his responsibilities potentially could be. He takes a liking to her from the get-go, obviously, because he notices her. She's new. She's somebody he hasn't seen before in his fields. See, he knew the people that were gleaning in his fields on a regular basis. He tells Ruth, continue to come here. You will be provided for. You will be protected. I have told my men not to bother you. Come, grab grain, grab the pieces that you need. If you want water, come and grab water from the jugs that the men have provided. And again, Boaz knew he was a potential redeemer. He knew this because in Leviticus 25:25, it tells us, if any one of your fellow Israelites become poor and sell some of their property, their nearest relative is to come and redeem what they have sold. See, Ruth is now in a predicament that she had come to Judah. See, she's a foreigner now. She's a woman with no husband. She has no children. She has no support system. She's poor, and she's a burden to society at this point. In chapter 3, we see Naomi comes up with a plan. God's timing wasn't quick enough for her. So she comes up with a plan. She's going to send Ruth to the threshing floor to meet with Boaz. As Naomi knew that Boaz was a kinsman redeemer. Now, we understand that there are other people there in the line also that potentially could have been kinsman redeemers for them. But they are after Boaz at this point. He has shown a liking to Ruth. So Naomi comes up with the plan to send her to the threshing floor at night. In chapter 3, verses 3 through 6, we see Naomi tells Ruth, "Wash, put on perfume, get dressed in your best clothes, then go down to the threshing floor, but do not let him know you are there until he has finished eating and drinking. When he lies down, note the place where he is lying. Go and uncover his feet and lie down. He will tell you what to do." "I will do whatever you say," Ruth answered. So she went down to the threshing floor and did everything her mother-in-law told her to do. So somewhere during the night, Boaz startles and wants to know who it is, who's at my feet. And Ruth tells him, "It is I, it is your servant." In verses 11 through 13, Boaz tells her that he knew that there was a closer redeemer. If we look at, he says, "Lord bless you, my daughter," he replies. "This kindness is greater than which you have shown earlier. You did not run after the younger men, whether rich or poor. And now, my daughter, don't be afraid. I will do all that you have asked. All the people in town know that you are a woman of noble character." And here's where Boaz kind of takes a stand. He says, "Although it is true, I am a guardian redeemer of your family, there is another who is more closely than I. Stay here for the night, and in the morning, if he wants to do his duty as your guardian redeemer, good. Let him redeem you. But if he is not willing, as surely as the Lord lives, I will do it. Lie here until the morning." Now, as I said earlier, Boaz knew he was in Elimelech's line, but he knew that there were people in front of him, and he knew there were people behind him. But I think Boaz knew that he could have just as easily redeemed Ruth there at that time, knowing that there was somebody closer. But I think he knew that if he had done that, God would not have blessed the union. God would not have blessed them. He would have gone around the laws because it says the closest. He was not the closest. So in chapter 4, we see where Boaz goes into town. He grabs all of the people of the town, the ones that could have witnessed or approved the transaction, and he tells the nearest kinsman redeemer what's going on, that Elimelech's widow has some property up for sale, and it's his responsibility. And in verses 5 and 6, the kinsman redeemer says, "Well, I'll do it then." In verses 5 and 6, then Boaz said, "On the day you buy the land from Naomi, you also require Ruth, the Moabite, the dead man's widow, in order to maintain the name of the dead with his property." At this, the guardian redeemer said, "Then I cannot redeem it, because I might endanger my own estate. You redeem it for yourself. I cannot do it." See, the kinsman redeemer was nothing more. They got nothing out of it. They would marry the widow. They would inherit the land. They would hopefully produce a son within the marriage. And when the time was right, the child would then inherit all of the property to enable the property to stay within that line, to provide a future for the women. When Ruth went to the threshing floor, that was essentially a no-no. The threshing floor was nothing more than a hard pan area. Nothing would grow there. Nice fancy threshing floors may have a stone area on them, might have a partial wall. If it was really fancy, it would have a potential covering. Now, the threshing floor itself was only used during the harvest, as the grain would be brought in, it would be beaten on the floor, animals would walk on it, it would be tossed in the air, and the chaff would be blown away, the grain would fall, they would then take the grain, make piles of it that would be taken to the storehouses for the winter seasons. In the non-harvest time, it would be used for other practical purposes. You could probably have parties there. Things that were not to be seen in public went on there. Women shouldn't have been there, and if they were, there were things potentially going on, like I said, that shouldn't be out in the public. But Boaz goes and he redeems her, because the nearest redeemer says, I won't do it. It's going to cost me too much. It's going to affect my estate. So Boaz takes Ruth. He marries her. They have a son. The son's name was Obed. Now, Obed had 8 sons, or actually Obed had Jesse. Jesse had 8 sons. The youngest son was named David. Yes, king of Israel, that David. 27 generations later, we have Jesus. See, Ruth was a series of coincidences, but it wasn't. See, Ruth was doing things that she thought she knew she was doing right. Naomi was having her stay with Boaz. She liked Boaz. Boaz took a fancy to her. Like he said, he protected her from the beginning. He redeemed her. If this original kinsman redeemer had redeemed her, we don't know what would have been. But see, God was orchestrating things in the background the whole time. See, with Obed, Jesse, King David, Ruth, that entire line gets us to the birth of Jesus. He's in the bloodline of Jesus. Obed redeemed Ruth, and in turn redeemed Naomi. On the threshing floor, where the edible and the unedible are separated, good and bad are separated. Matthew 25:25 says, the Son of Man will separate sheep from the goats. The good and the bad are separated. The threshing floor itself, like I said, very symbolic in agricultural as well as the spiritual means. See, we don't know what's going on. We don't know the challenges, the things that we are facing right now. God is working in the background. He's always orchestrating something. God is not necessarily just a feeling. You don't necessarily see it. See, He never stops working, even though we don't see it, even though we don't feel it. He's working. He's orchestrating things. What are we facing? What challenges are we dealing with today? In the country, personally, how are we doing? Where are we chasing? Where's our kinsman redeemer? Who are we looking for? What are we looking for? What leadership are we looking for? See, God knows what we need. We're not alone. He's working in the background. It is usually after the fact that we see what God has done. Then we look back and we go, oh yes. God has redeemed us spiritually. See, as we go to the threshing floor, He separates us from our sin. He has separated us from the good and the evil that is within us. As we move to communion, as I said, Jesus is our kinsman redeemer. He's the closest. He's the only one that we have. We can chase after other things to redeem ourselves. It won't be successful. God tells us that The only way to God is through Jesus. He came, he died for our sins. He rose again. He redeemed us as Boaz redeemed Ruth and Naomi and that bloodline. The significance of the threshing floor and the cross, it can't really be overlooked. See, it was the cross that the sacrifice that God honored for our redemption.
Saturday was silent, surely it was through. Since when has impossible ever stopped you? Friday's disappointment is Sunday's empty tomb. But since when has impossible ever stopped you? This is the sound of dry bones rattling. This is the praise make a dead man walk again. Dope in the grave, I'm coming out. I'm gonna live again. This is the sound of dry bones rattling. Pentecostal fire, stirring something new. You're not gonna run out of miracles anytime soon. Yeah, resurrection power runs in my veins too. And I believe there's another miracle here in this room. This is the sound of dry bones rattling. This is the praise make a dead man walk again. Dope in the grave, I'm coming out. I'm gonna live again. This is the sound of dry bones rattling. My God is able to save and deliver and heal and restore anything that He wants to. Just ask the man who was thrown on the bones of Elisha if there's anything that He can do. Just ask the stone that was rolled in the tomb in the garden. What happens when God says to move? And I feel Him moving it now. I feel Him doing it now. I feel Him doing it now. Do it now. Do it now. This is the sound of dry bones rattling. This is the place like a dead man walk again. Dope in the grave, I'm coming out. I'm gonna live again. This is the sound of dry bones rattling. I hear the sound. I hear the sound. I hear the sound. I hear the sound. to the way of the Lord. Live, live. Drive on to the way of the Lord. Live, live. Drive on to the way of the Lord. Live, live. Drive on to the way of the Lord. Live, live. Drive on to the way of the Lord. This is the sound of dry bones rattling. This is the praise, make a dead man walk again. And open the grave, I'm coming out. I'm gonna live again. This is the sound of dry bones rattling.
You know, one of my favorite things to do with my family is to eat. And my family, they love, my boys love to go to their grandparents' house. We have one of our grandparents that lives just a couple blocks away, and she keeps a steady supply of Pringles. It's not like she eats very many Pringles, but my boys love to eat Pringles and pizza rolls at her house. And this is her way of showing love. When my boys go to my parents' house, they have all kinds of goodies. My dad will make them cinnamon rolls, and they'll have nachos, and they'll have honey buns, and you name it. And kind of the universal love language in our family is food. We love to eat it. We love to come together as a family and eat food. It's a time of great conversations, a great time that we just hang out. You know, at communion, we're able to come together as a church family, and we eat. We take a piece of bread and we take some juice, and we reflect on this time of Jesus' amazing love and grace. It's a time that we reflect on how much He truly loves us by Him giving His life on the cross for us. And so would you take this time to take the bread and take the juice and remember His amazing sacrifice as we all come together as a family around the table and eat. Would you pray with me? Jesus, I just thank you for you giving your life. Thank you for being the bread of life. Thank you for giving us a purpose in life. And so as we take the bread and we take the juice, we reflect, and we are so grateful for your amazing love and grace. In your precious holy name, amen.
Great are you, Lord. And it's your breath in our lungs, so we pour out our praise. We pour out our praise. It's your breath in our lungs, so we pour out our praise to you only. You give life, and you are love. You bring light to the darkness. You give hope, and you restore every heart that is broken. Great are you, Lord. And it's your breath in our lungs, so we pour out our praise. We pour out our praise. It's your breath in our lungs, so we pour out our praise to you only. It's your breath in our lungs, so we pour out our praise. Pour out our praise. It's your breath in our lungs, so we pour out our praise to you only. And all the earth will shout your praise. Our hearts will cry, these bones will sing. Great are you, Lord. And all the earth will shout your praise. Our hearts will cry, these bones will sing. Great are you, Lord.
We're excited to know that some of you are ready to take some next steps in your faith journey. We want to come alongside you, support you, and equip you through this process. chccsa.info is your central hub for all next steps. If you want to submit a prayer request, talk to someone about getting baptized and giving your life to Jesus, or you're looking for a place to serve or a place to get connected to our church, chccsa.info is a great place to start for all these next steps. Some of you call Castle Hills Christian Church your home. And if that's you and you want to continue to partner with us financially as we serve both here in San Antonio and around the world, you can go to give.chccsa.com, or you can text the message GIVE to the number 210-903-5440. Thank you for your support. We're so glad that you're here today, and we hope to see you next week.